Hello and welcome to another edition of the MYPATH podcast. Today we have Big Mo Walker here joining us from the basketball world. However, he's now moved on to some, do I say bigger and better things? Forgive the pun. Can we go with that?
You can say that.
Mo, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
you
for having
your
me.
time. So, Mo, I know we've spoken a little bit off camera, spoken about kind of what our objective is here today. So we're really trying to kind of get a message out to our student listeners around the importance of not panicking when we start to plan our careers. We appreciate it's a real big decision and it can be quite overwhelming, but we want our audience to understand that, you know, careers aren't always linear. And I think you might be able to kind of support with that today. So what we tend to do is kind of look at your background first and your journey and also kind of then bring it to the present. Are you okay with that?
Of course.
Brilliant. So I'm sure the audience will notice that you've not got a British accent. So shall we start there? So where are you from, Mo? Talk to us.
Born and raised in Toronto, Canada. My mom was actually born here in London.
Okay.
But she only lived here for about 6 months. My grandmother was studying and then moved out to Jamaica. My roots are in Jamaica. So
Okay.
my mom grew up there. My dad was born there. They both migrated to Canada when they were 17, 18 years old. And yeah, I was born there, raised there, started my life there.
Yeah. And I've got to apologise for not knowing much about the Canadian education system. So talk us through that. So obviously we have the GCSEs here. How does it work over in Canada?
So for me, I was on a path early to play basketball. Went to elementary school. We call it elementary. I think you guys call it primary.
Yep.
So went to elementary school in the local town where I was from. I went to high school. My high school was also in the area. And in high school, we take something called SAT,
Yep.
which is equivalent to the GCSEs. And you have to obtain a certain score if you want to be able to get scholarships to the United States and play basketball at a higher level. So from an early age, I was shown and taught the importance of, you know, partnering school with sport.
Yep.
So, I took my SATs, ended up getting decent grades. And it's a scale where if you score really well on the SAT, your grades don't actually have to be that well. But if you don't have good grades, then you're going to have to get a good score on the SAT. So I had a good balance of a decent score and decent grades, and I was able to pursue a career or obtain a scholarship to the United States.
So talk to us a bit about scholarships. How does that work? So I'm guessing very early on you had a gift for basketball and you were playing that competitively at a young age. Were you picked up? How does it work?
Well, being from Canada, it was a little bit difficult for me because a lot of coaches in the United States don't have access to the kids in Canada. They don't see them as often. So what I did was I played something called AAU, where you travel across the United States and play in different tournaments in different places. So because I was able to do that, I got seen by a bunch of different coaches, and I got scholarships offered to me. Had to make a decision about, you know, where I wanted to play, what school I wanted to go to. I was fortunate to have a lot of different options. I ended up choosing the University of Minnesota for a number of different reasons. One of those reasons was I did have a family outlet in Minnesota. So my uncle lived in Minnesota at the time. So just wanting to have that kind of familiarity, that family outlet, just in case I needed, you know, something off of campus or, you know, it was good for me. But yeah, the journey to obtain a scholarship is not easy for a lot of kids. You know, everybody wants a scholarship and schools only have a certain amount to offer.
So with that scholarship in mind, just going back to Canada before we jump back to America, do you finish school around 15, 16? Is that how it works? And then is that when you were able to go and pursue or look for a scholarship?
I finished high school, 17,
Okay.
17, 18 years old. And yeah, once you finish high school, it's what are you going to do next? You know,
Okay.
Most people on the pathway want to play basketball, want to go to Division I school or a high-level school in the United States, you know, do their years there, play, and then potentially play professionally.
So in terms of all these phrases are new to me, so apologies. So Division I, what does that actually mean, Division I schools?
Division I school is just a bigger school. There's different leagues in NCAA, the National College Basketball Association. I'm pretty sure is what NCAA stands for. There's Division I, Division II, Division III, Division IV. And all the bigger schools with the most money and the most opportunities are going to be in the highest division.
So is this, are we calling the first division, are they universities? Is that what we would know them as? Or is that the step before?
They're all universities.
Right.
Or I mean, in America, they call it university, college.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand.
Okay.
They're both the same, really.
So were you studying whilst playing basketball over there?
Yes.
Right, okay, so talk us through that. So I'm guessing you're committing a lot of time and energy to playing basketball, but then the university's saying, but Mo, you've got to get your degree as well.
For sure.
So what did you take in terms of a degree?
I studied sport management. The reason I studied sport management, it was pretty straightforward because sport was what I loved and what I knew. And you know, not to say I wanted the easy path, but I did want I did want to do something that I enjoyed and something that I already knew a lot about, which was sports. So I did my undergrad in sport management. I obtained my degree, and then I started my master's program in youth development and leadership. But you know, once the basketball season ended, I knew I wanted to play basketball. I ended up dropping out before completing my master's.
So at this point, then, how old are we when this is happening?
22, 23.
So then the Masters goes on hold. Do we park that and then you completely throw yourself into the basketball?
Yes, I actually went on permanent hold. But yeah, at the time I was thinking, I could put it on hold. I could train and I could get ready to play professional basketball, and then somewhere down the line I can come back and revisit.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about kind of the questions that students might want to ask you as we're, and I know we're not live, but I'm imagining what they would want to ask you. So I interview quite a lot of children in year 10, year 11, and a number of them will talk about basketball, wanting to be a basketball pro, a football pro. And we know that statistically, I would imagine worldwide, this is difficult. So what sort of kind of barriers did you have to overcome to get to this point of professional basketball? Because that's a huge achievement, isn't it?
Yes. My path was different than probably a lot of people. Like I went away from home, so that in itself was a barrier. Just not having that guidance, you know, that person to kind of keep you in line, make sure you're going to your classes and going to school and whatnot. Injuries is also another big barrier. I had an injury my first year of university that sidelined me for a year and a half. So just overcoming that, it was tough, especially, like I said, being there on your own, away from my family, away from all my support group. It was definitely a big barrier for me to overcome.
A big learning curve.
Yes.
So let's dive back into the basketball journey. So you go into it full time. Who do you join? Where's this?
My first professional contract. Obviously, I wanted to make the NBA.
Yeah.
I did. I put my name into the draft. I did NBA Summer League, all the things that you're supposed to do. Unfortunately, I didn't get selected. But instead of giving up, I just figured what's the next best thing I could do, and I was pursue a career professionally overseas. Hired an agent. Agent signed me to a team in Italy. So my first professional job was in Italy, and it was a good experience. A bit of a learning curve because there is a transition between university and professional basketball. I don't want to get too technical, but in university, everything is pretty much structured. The coach has a lot of control about what plays you run, what positions you play. Everything you do on the court is pretty much dictated by the coach and his system. Whereas when you become professional, you get a lot of freedom, and you kind of dictate you kind of do what you're good at. It's not so much structured. It's not so you got to do this, and that. It's more just go out there and do what you're good at and try to win games and perform. So my first job was tough because I didn't have any structure, any leadership, any guidance.
And you're in a new country.
In a new country, language barriers, cultures, differences, a lot of things, a lot of factors that played into it. But I ended up not doing so well, and I ended up getting cut from my first team.
Okay. So I would imagine that was a big setback.
For sure.
So how does Mo pick himself up and move on to the next phase of his journey?
I just, at the time, like I said, my confidence was shot. Obviously, I had high dreams and high aspirations. I didn't quite achieve those dreams and aspirations, but I settled for what I thought was also a very good accomplishment. And then for me, again, to be told that I wasn't good enough to play on this level was, huge for me. Definitely shot my confidence. But something I learned through sport is just resilience. You're not always gonna get things right. You're not always gonna do things perfectly on the first try. Just keep trying, keep working, keep practicing, And eventually I signed with another team that I was able to be more successful with.
Was that in France again, or did you
I went to Cyprus.
Cyprus?
Yes,
Okay, a bit
Cyprus.
warmer over there.
Yeah, for sure. The weather was nice. Everything off the court was very nice. Basketball was good too because I kind of got to recreate myself. Nobody knew what had happened in Italy or the struggles that I faced. It was just a new environment for me to thrive in.
And in terms of on the court, some good achievements. Did we win tournaments, win leagues?
We actually lost in the semifinals of the playoffs. But overall, I had a good year and I learned a lot that year. And I think that's the most important thing for me.
And I think it's really powerful. You know, you're talking about resilience and setbacks. You know, whether it's basketball, football, education, jobs. It doesn't matter how formidable we might feel at certain times of our careers. Actually, we've all got to go through these kind of learning curves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're into. Resilience is going to be key for everything.
For all walks of life.
Yeah.
So Cyprus, how long were we there for?
I ended the season there. I was there for 4 months, about 4 months.
Okay. And then we're on world tour. Where did we go to next?
So after Cyprus, once the season finished in Cyprus, obviously my goals were to play as high a level as possible. I wanted to get back to Italy just to prove to them, but also to myself that I was capable of playing at that level. So I actually flew myself out to Italy. Contacted a coach of a team that I played against, asking him if I could participate in their training camp, just because I knew if I was in the country, I was playing against other Italian teams, maybe another coach or another general manager or someone could see me, see how easy I was to be accessed because I'm already there and possibly want to sign me on their team. So I did that for a couple months. Fortunately, one of my teammates was Latvian, and his brother was a general manager of a team in Latvia. So his brother needed a player in my position. They had conversations back and forth. It got to me finally. General manager and my agent started having conversations, and before I knew it, I signed to a team in Latvia.
The European tour continues.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about that? Obviously, you've got elite sporting athleticism, potential, etc. But you spoke about there that that was kind of networking, right? You know, putting yourself out your comfort zone, reaching out to a team, and networking, and the importance of networking to potentially generate opportunities, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I just put myself in a situation where I felt like, something could happen. I didn't really sit back and wait for things to happen. I went in and attacked it and made it happen myself. And,
so talk to us about Latvia. What happened over there?
Latvia was tough, very, very tough for me. Culturally, very different. The language was very different. Me personally, I was in a city where, when I walked around the town, I never saw anybody that looked anything like me. So it was difficult just to feel comfortable and feel like I fit in a sense. When I first got there, everything was going well. Obviously, like when you first arrive to a team, it usually takes a little while for you to get situated, for them to give you your apartment, your car, whatever it may be. But it took them a really long time to get me my things. And when I initially went there, I was extremely positive. I was happy to, get the opportunity to be there. But over time, my attitude kind of changed because they didn't get me my car, they didn't get me my apartment, they didn't do these things that they promised me. So now my attitude and my mindset kind of changed. Whereas when I got there, I was very coachable. I was willing to listen to my coach. He would tell me to do something, and I would, go out there and try to do it to the best of my abilities. But over time, it got to the point where now I'm pointing the finger at other people. Like, oh, what about, the coach will say, Mo, you need to do this. And I'll be like, oh, what about this guy? He's not doing this. Why are you picking on me? So I kind of changed my mindset, whereas like it was everybody against me instead of me trying to figure out how to work with everybody together, and ended up, not having a good time on and off the court. For me, sport is up and down. We were just talking about it. Sport is up and down. You're going to win games. You're going to lose games. You're going to play well. You're not going to play well. But I wanted my life outside of sport to always be enjoyable, no matter what. And I was in Latvia when I first got there. Life outside of sport wasn't that enjoyable, but my on-the-court experience was a lot of fun. Yeah. I was playing really well. I ended up winning preseason tournament MVP and things of that nature. But then, when my mindset kind of switched, it turned to things not going well off the court and things not going well on the court. So now I was in a position where I just really wasn't happy and I wanted to leave. Fortunately, I got a phone call from one of my friends, my childhood friends, just a regular check-in call. How's things going? I heard you signed in Latvia. You know, what's going on? And I let him know everything I was going through. And ironically, he was playing here in the UK for a team called the Worcester Wolves, who isn't in the league anymore, but they were at the time. And they said they needed a player in my position. So sure enough, I told my
Stars
agent.
aligned.
Yeah, I told my agent, I'm not happy here. You know, this is another opportunity for me. He did his work, talked back and forth with the coach, made sure it was a good situation for me to go to. And I ended up leaving Latvia after a month and a half or 2 months and signing to this team here in the UK.
So we arrived in the UK. When was this? What sort of year?
2015, I think. 2015, 16.
Okay, so you've been here for a good 8, 9, 10 years now then.
After I did a year in the UK, I went to France for 2 years.
Okay.
And then came back.
And is that when you joined the Riders?
Yes.
And talk to us about the Riders. Talk to us about your time there. Did you say 5 years earlier on when we spoke off camera?
I did 5 years with the Riders. Yeah. So just to backtrack a little bit, I had a great season here in the UK for Worcester Wolves. Very comfortable on and off the court. But my goals were to just make as much money, play in the best league, the best team as possible. So I ended up, instead of re-signing, I signed to a team in France. And I did a year in France, had a really good year, had a good team with a lot of good veteran players and good support. The team had aspirations to win the league and go up through relegations to the top league because I signed to a team in the second league. And at the end of the season, we didn't reach our goal. They offered to re-sign me, but I figured I had a good year. I don't need to re-sign. I can go up to a team in the first league on my own. So I did that, and I ended up going to France, going to a team in the top league. And I was having a decent year, but our team wasn't panning out. We weren't winning as many games as we are projected to, and you know, in this business of sport, when things aren't going well, something has to change. And sure enough, I ended up getting cut, sent back down to the second league, where I came from, on a different team. Ended up playing against my old team in the playoffs. Ended up losing to my old team. OT ended up winning the league and going up without me. So for me, it was just a bunch of up and downs, you know, through sport and through life. So after that year in France, I reflected on where I enjoyed my life most outside of sport, and it was always here in the UK. So I reached out to the Leicester Riders because at the time, the last time I came to the UK, they were the best team in the league. So I obviously want to play for the best teams, you know, the best organization. So I reached out to the Riders, ended up getting a contract sorted out. And like I said, when I got here, I was really welcomed. I felt really comfortable. But unfortunately, about a week before I flew out here, I got injured. I ended up tearing my hamstring, but at the time I didn't know that my hamstring was torn. I just thought it was a little minor tweak. I would be able to rest for about a month and then get back into playing. But when I got here, saw the doctors, tried to rehab, wasn't getting any better, saw the doctors again. They told me my hamstring was torn and I needed surgery. So ended up having surgery and missing that pretty much that entire season.
Sounds like you've had a number of setbacks throughout your career.
Yes.
But in terms of the Riders, so it was here for 5 years, did you say?
Yes.
And you got back on the court?
Yes. So first
Some good
season,
times?
First season injury. Second season, I rehabbed. I was able to play. And then 4 games into the season, the same injury on my other leg. So another torn hamstring just on my other leg. So from there, I was kind of in a position where I wasn't sure if I was going to continue playing. I knew like it was going to be a tough road because I had just been through that same injury and all the rehab protocols and whatnot. But resilience, my teammates pushing and inspiring me and motivating me, I came back the following season ready to play. And I had one of the best seasons, I'd say, of my career. We ended up winning 3 out of 4 trophies with the Riders that year. And it was just a testament to not only my resilience, but my teammates and just them encouraging and supporting me through my difficult times. And just the togetherness that we showed on the court to be able to overcome all these challenges.
And I think that's probably the second or third time we've mentioned resilience, you know, and you know, whatever walk of life you know, and I know we spoke off camera about kind of elite sports people and fans being quite critical and forgetting that we're all humans.
Yeah.
And actually, as much as, you know, I'm sure you've had some amazing times on the court, you know, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. And I would imagine some emotional trauma as well. You know, you've really got to, you know, step back at times and go through that recovery phase, you know.
A lot of emotional trauma for me.
Yeah.
Because even after that year with the Riders, like I said, 3 trophies, great year.
So you hit like a good high there. And then,
For sure. So after that year, we because we won the league and all these trophies, we got a bid into the Champions League. So we flew to Macedonia to try to qualify for Champions League. Ended up losing our first game and didn't qualify, but I was having a really good start to the season. And then about 5 games in, we traveled to Caledonia, and just on a regular basketball movement, I was just backing up, and I just got a pop in my Achilles. And sure enough, you know, I came out the game, came back to Leicester, saw the doctors, ruptured Achilles tendon. So again, finished for the season that year. And, you know, coming off such a high, it was like, wow, like again, like, you know, I just been through 2 injuries back to back. I finally had a good year under my belt, and then now all of a sudden another injury. And I think this is when we initially met, when I had this injury, my Achilles. And that was probably one of the toughest times I've been through in terms of just recovery and just injuries and just sport in general.
But in terms of those tough times, you know, I would imagine, and this is where we met, where we crossed paths, you started to kind of focus on other projects as well. And so where did that take you? And I suppose that starts to bring us to the current, really.
Yes. So, like I said, basketball has been my entire life. The game has given me so much blessings in so many different forms. Whether it's just the relationships between the people, my teammates, the fans, the fact that I got to travel the world, just so many different blessings. I just wanted to share those same blessings with the kids, with the next generation. And, you know, through my injury, I found it was a perfect opportunity for me to kind of dip my foot in the water and kind of see what I could do and what I could be good at and how I could impact the next generation. So I came up with the idea of a mentorship program where I use sport as a vessel to give kids life skills. Basically, I just give kids a window into my life, ups and downs, and just use my life as teaching points on the things we talk about here: resilience, just character, just positive character traits, and just trying to be a positive male role model to some kids that may not have that in their lives.
And that's amazing, and we thank you for that, because I appreciate, you know, you've gone into loads of schools in the Midlands, and I'm sure you've touched the hearts of many children and motivated them. You know when you started moving into, I suppose, doing some community work with local children, were you still under contract with the Leicester Riders? Is that how it worked?
Yes, so I was under contract with the Leicester Riders, but because of my injury, we had to kind of nail down a different contract.
Okay.
But then I started working with the Leicester Riders Foundation.
Right.
Foundation is just designated to, you know, community engagement, and just kind of get more fans in the seats, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I reached out to the foundation initially, of course they were happy to get me on board, and they were willing to work with me to figure out what I wanted to do, and kind of carved out my own kind of section in the foundation to deliver my program. Connected me with a bunch of different schools, and kind of put the ideas into motion.
And at this moment in time, are you still working with the Riders, or have you now completely moved on?
So now I'm separate from the Riders. Still have good connections with the coaches and the players, obviously, I played with. But now I'm working for another company called WBR Group, who was actually a sponsor of the Riders at the time when I was with the Riders. And I kind of developed a good relationship with the CEO. He supported me through my injuries. Was also supporting through the year where we won a bunch of different trophies and the championships. And then again, through my other injuries, he just consistently showed support and encouragement, and just never really, You know, it didn't really matter if I played well or if I didn't play well. After the games, he was always there to have a conversation and just to kind of help me to, get whatever thoughts I had on my mind just out and to move on from the game and get ready for the next one. So just through the relationship, just through the time spent, the conversations we had, eventually it got to the point where we're talking about business and what I want to do outside of sport. And he saw what I was doing with the Riders and thought this would be great for me to do through his company. So, now I'm taking a step back from the Riders. Yeah, I joined his company, and now I'm doing similar things that I was doing with the Riders for his company.
So talk us through that then in terms of your current role. So what would your a week look like? So is it visiting various schools other than recording podcasts, obviously?
My role is just brand ambassador, and it entails a lot of different things. I would say my main focus is community engagement, because obviously I have passion in giving back. So I don't want to say selfishly, but in giving back, it obviously builds the awareness for the company and what they do, because we have conversations like this. Who do you work for? What are you doing? And I'm able to tell you I work for a SaaS provider, the largest SaaS provider in the UK. But yeah, mostly just community engagement. I'd say on a weekly basis, I'm probably in 2 or 3 schools at least. Whether it's ambassador assemblies. Ambassador assembly is something I'm doing in primary schools where it's 30 minutes assembly. I just talk about respect, resilience, teamwork, things that younger students could really latch on to. And then I allow them to ask a lot of questions, because I feel like...
As in, how tall are you?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like with the younger kids, it's a lot more engaging and more memorable. Because I remember when I was young, we had a lot of school assemblies. Oftentimes, it would just be someone talking, and then they're finished talking, okay, we go back to class. But I want them to engage, ask questions, feel like they're involved, so they can really latch onto something. Aside from the ambassador assemblies, I also do a mentoring program, call it Momentum, a fun play on words, But the idea behind it is just to keep the ball rolling, keep forward progress in character development in life. Through ups and downs, the ball's going to keep rolling, and just try to keep the momentum moving forward.
I like that. And in terms of kind of, I would imagine most of our audience will be students. However, we could have lots of schools watching or corporates that might want to know a bit more about what you're doing. They might want to reach out to you. Is there a good way that people can reach out to you? Did you want to throw some details down the camera now, or is that not what we do? I don't know.
No, that's fine. Yeah, reach out to me. I've reached out to a lot of different schools. I understand that schools are very busy. Emails often get lost, but yeah, reach out. You can email me, mo.walker@wbrgroup.co.uk. Just send me an email. I can look at my calendar. I have a pretty busy calendar, but
busy.
There's always time. I can always carve out some time and move some things around and adjust.
That's really good. I think as well, and I'm conscious that we've got Sahira here as well today. One of the benchmarks that governs schools in relation to careers, as I'm sure you're aware, is linking curriculum to careers. So I'd imagine that's kind of where you come in as well. With your line of work, or your organisation that you work for, are there certain kind of subjects that are required in? Did you say it's pensions, finance? What sort of subjects are critical for your line of work? Because I work with a lot of students that like the idea of working finance, accountancy, economics.
So, ironically, I do work for a financial company, but I don't know much about the financial side of things. My focus is just community engagement, trying to build the brand by doing good in the community. And in turn, we hope that people see our company's name and remember that for whenever it's time for them to, book their start signing up for their pensions or whatever they're gonna do. I would say though, obviously in the financial field, I would say math is obviously an important subject. English is also going to be important just for communication purposes. But yeah, I think those are probably going to be the main two.
That's really, really helpful. And just remind us again what the company's called?
WBR Group.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mo, before we conclude, I just want to kind of ask you for 3 top tips for our audience. And to be fair, you've covered quite a lot already. I know we spoke about resilience. If you could go back, or if you was at school, or if you could speak to Mo as a 15-year-old, what am I calling it again? What was it called in Canada? What was the school?
Like high school or elementary school?
Yeah, okay, so one of those schools.
School, Mo.
If you could go back and speak to a younger Mo, or we're communicating now with our younger audience, what top tips would you give students when we think about their future career? There's no right or wrong answer here, so go with the flow.
Number 1 would obviously be resilience.
Yep.
Just because so many ups and downs in life. I mean, if you can just overcome or just keep working, you know. I tell the kids in school, like, you're not going to do great on every test. You're not going to, you know, ace every assignment. But if you keep practicing, you keep working, you keep trying, eventually you're going to figure it out and you're going to get it. Same thing for me with sport. Like when I first started sport, I couldn't make all my, even now, I still can't make all my baskets. I can't do everything perfect, but I practice so much that it just starts coming naturally, and you get a lot better. I would say another number 2 would probably be just networking. I would say I would not be in the position I'm in if I didn't communicate with certain people or be in the right place at the right time and just, you know, advocate for myself in a sense. I think networking is extremely important. I mean, it's not always about what you can do. It's oftentimes about who you know.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah, I would say, you know, I'm super appreciative of my CEO, my boss. He's given me the opportunity to do all the things I'm doing.
So we've got resilience, networking.
Yeah, and I would say it's important to try new things. When I was young, all I did was basketball, all I did was sport. And, you know, I studied sport in school, and it's like, I know enough about sport without studying it. You know, I kind of just, naturally, I'm just a sporting type of person. But I would say when I was younger, if I would have tried new things, then when I got to this phase of my career, I would have kind of known what I wanted to do, and it would have been easier for me to adjust. And, you know, you say careers are non-linear. It would have been easy for me to just make a turn, and because I know I like to do this, I like to do this also. It's like I can figure it out a lot easier. So I would say just trying new things is important when you're young, because you're young. You know, you have lots of time to try new things, and if you like something at a young age, you have years and years to work on it and become better at it. So I would say that's the last one.
Powerful, very powerful. So would you agree with me that careers are not always linear?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I would have, if I would have thought my career is linear, then I would have just thought MBA and that's all.
Yeah.
You know, once I didn't achieve the MBA, it's like, oh, what do I do now? Do I just do nothing? Obviously, you have to, you know, your path is going to take twists and turns, and, you know.
And that's okay, right?
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I would have never thought I would go from basketball to a financial company, but here I am today.
There you go. And it just shows, doesn't it? But, you know, you've obviously had a very successful career in sport, but actually it's generated lots of opportunities as well. And you're here now making a massive difference in Leicester, you know. So we're really grateful for your time. You know, we're always happy to have you back on if ever you want to kind of talk about the projects you've been doing. Have you got any final messages for the audience, Mo?
Oh, this was fun. I would love to do it again. And I could talk for hours and hours, really.
Well, we'll get you booked in again, mate. Thank you so much for your time, Mo. Really appreciate it. And thank you again, guys. We'll speak to you soon.